Well, let's talk about Cummins, the Indian stock and the global parent as well. Cummins Inc. had hosted a conference call. Vamakshi is here with how does it impact the Indian company and what is the correlation generally for these companies with an MNC parent?
Well, absolutely, Sonal. Cummins Inc. had a con call, and the first important takeaway that came through from them was that they've lowered their India revenue guidance, including JVs, to 1% as compared to 8% earlier. Now, keep in mind that this is for all of their entities in India and not just Cummins India specifically. And this reduction is largely coming on the back of a fall in their industry truck demand guidance to -5 to plus 5%, and this does not have a bearing on Cummins India because it does not really serve this segment. The second important takeaway was the positive commentary on the power gen business. Q3 revenue in India was down nearly 12%, but the power gen revenues in India increased by almost 49%, and this was largely driven by pre-buying demand seen in CPCP4 gensets, as well as the increased demand that came in from the data centers. Now, this has a positive read-through for Cummins India because power gen is one of the largest revenue contributors for the company. But when we look at the historical trend, there has been a disconnect between the numbers that were reported by the parent company for their overall India business and the numbers reported by the Indian listed companies. So, case in point, when we look at the June quarter, Cummins Inc. reported an India revenue degrowth of 10%. Power gen revenue in India for them fell by 17%, but at the same time, the listed entity reported a growth of 4%. Same for the March quarter, Cummins Inc. reported a growth of 1% in its India revenue, a growth of 37% in its power gen revenue, but at the same time, the listed entity reported a growth of 20%. And this disconnect comes through because Cummins has 7 entities in India, including 3 JVs, and the parent's commentary applies on all of these companies in unison. But the commentary on power gen particularly is important for Cummins India because, like I said before, it is the biggest segment. Let's also look at how ABB, the parent company, as well as the Indian listed company, has reported its numbers. Now, ABB growth in India for the September quarter stood at 9%, but ABB India, which is the listed company, reported a growth of 5%. Even in June, there was a bit of a disconnect because the group posted a growth of 3% for the India business, while ABB India saw a growth of 13%. And this disconnect comes in because ABB Group's numbers looks at third-party customers in India who give orders to ABB India, some other ABB companies in India, and to other ABB companies that are outside India. So that is where the disconnect comes in, and therefore, there is not much correlation between the numbers for the India business reported by global companies as compared to the listed Indian companies.
Thank you so much, Vamakshi, for that. So every time,